Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Hunt for Wolverine, the Adamantium Agenda, Part 2 of 4. This scene, you might be thinking, what? There's no way that actually happens. Yeah, this scene actually happens. The only difference is it's actually reversed. Like, Wolverine's claws aren't like this, they're like that. So, anyway, yeah, that actually happens. That actually happens here. Trick is it's a flashback, but that's fine. They actually continue on with that story from back in the day. Now, I didn't think I was going to like it. I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks, you know what I'm saying, unless they're done really well. Well, it's done really well here. I have to admit, man, really fantastic job of doing, like, this Tom Taylor, man. Dude did a fantastic job of telling a backstory that never actually happened, but now it's written into canon that it did. Wolverine says, hey man, if I ever died, what would you do with my body? Like, there's a big way around it. Of course, Tony Stark is being a jerk about it because Tony Stark, more than making armors and things like that, more than being rich, more than being a playboy, philanthropist, whatever he is, he's a jerk, all right? That's what he does. That's the reason why we love him. That's the reason why I personally love to hate him. He's a jerk, so he's being a jerk, and Wolverine just, like, corners him. He's like, dude, seriously. Well, more like Bub, seriously. Like, I've been experimented on my entire life. I don't want that to happen after I'm dead. What would you do with my body? Tell me you wouldn't ever experiment on my body. He's like, no, I wouldn't. I promise. And he's like, I need you to make sure that nothing ever happens to my body after I'm gone. And I'm willing to give you something if you promise me that. Now, we don't actually get to see what that promise is. Hopefully we get to see in the next issue because it's pretty sick. Anyway, what happens in this comic book is we continue with the bidding process. And I'm digging that. I'm definitely digging that because it was actually kind of interesting. There's a little bit of history here. I enjoyed the stupid bidding process, and we got to see Stark and Peter Parker in their glory here. Like, they both completely nerded out and cracked jokes with each other. And Tony Stark seriously owned this issue. Like, it was fantastic. I loved it. But more specifically, the bad guy who shows up, like, out of nowhere, like RKO out of nowhere. No. This was an awesome villain out of nowhere. And I love this villain, and the villain was played right. Loved this. I loved this. Fantastic use of this villain. Who was it? Buy the comic, man. Go buy the comic. I'm just going to tell you everything. Here you go. Here's the comic. That's not me. That's not me. Anyway, I will say that at the end, X-23 shows up to save the day. And Peter Parker yells out, Wolverine! I want to punch Peter in the face so bad. And I'd have missed because he'd have sensed it and be like, miss, duck. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. But, man, just, oh, my God. You know what I'm especially happiest about with this comic book, is more specifically with the return of Wolverine eventually, is that he's going to take his name back. Yeah, and this is going to happen. She's going to go back to being X-23, or let her call herself freaking Tasmanian Devil for all I care, because I don't care, but I'm sick and tired of that. I had a conversation with somebody in the comic book store a couple of weeks ago, because we were just talking about it. I was like, oh yeah, the latest all-new Wolverine. I'm like, oh yeah, Laura Kinney. It's like, yeah, but she's actually Wolverine now. I'm like, yeah, dude, I hate that she's got the name. It's like, and the guy's like, why? Why do you have a problem with that? Like, dude, because she's not Wolverine, all right? She's Laura Kinney. Like, that's who she is. It's like, yeah, but, she's actually the clone of Wolverine. So if anybody has the right to have the name, it's her. Like, okay, just out of curiosity, which part of your brain was actually lighting up when you had the thought to give me that silly little factoid that every single person and their mother knows about X-23? That, oh, she's the clone of Wolverine. And nobody's saying that. Like, who cares who has the most right to the name? Who cares if it was inherited or not? Who cares? The idea is, it doesn't matter who has the most right to a name. It's not her name. It's stupid for somebody else to take that name. Of all things, of all the characters who got, the somebody else's name and things like that, like, none of them bothered me. Except this one does. This one does. It's just so, I'm going to use the name and I'm going to go, like, shut up. Oh, just stop. Just stop. So, like, I cornered him. I'm like, okay, so you're sitting here saying that this is actually the clone of Wolverine. What's her name? Laura Kinney. Does she have another name? Yeah, X-23. I was like, so she's already got two names. Why does she need a third? Why does she need freaking Wolverine as a name? And that just stumped him. All of a sudden, no more parts of his brain were lighting up. I'm like, see, and that's the point. And it's funny, everybody laughed about that. It's like, but that's the point. Nobody else needs a freaking name. So anyway, she showed up and she's gonna, of course, save the day. And oh man, just whatever, man, whatever. I don't read her comic book, so when I see other people on YouTube have said, like, oh, she's a Mary Sue, and oh, she's out of nowhere, and she just, oh, look at the whole thing. I'm like, no, she's earned it. She's been there, whatever. But after reading her in several comic books, just showing up out of nowhere and saving the day, yeah, I am so through with X-23. I'm so done with Laura Kinney. That just, oh man, and I know it's an unpopular opinion, and I don't even care, man. Like, we already had the death of Wolverine. Can we have the death of Laura Kinney now? Like, she needs to just go into her own comic book and stay in her own comic book, and she wants to be the immortal X-23, and she can beat up anybody, and nobody's safe around her, and oh my god, she's gonna save the day. Can she just do in her own comic book, and I don't have to have her thrown at me every time I look around? It's like, she wasn't, to the best of my knowledge, she wasn't even supposed to be in this comic book. So what the frig, Anyway, I'm just, oh my god, I'm so past her, and it's a shame. Like, there's nothing that Taylor actually did to ruin the comic book for me except include her in the story. Literally, just, it's a shame. Like, she annoys me so much, and her absolute perfectness, it's a word now, that I just, like, she ruins a comic book for me. This was a fantastic comic book, and there was a part where that main bad guy showed up, and I wasn't using my hands to read the comic book. I had it laid across the arm of the chair, and I'm sitting there looking at it, and also my hand was just like, oh, I was so yeah, I actually did that, because I'm like, yes, that's awesome that this villain gets to go in face to face with Tony Stark. That's freaking awesome. But then Laura Kinney shows up, and I'm like, it literally, it brought the comic from yes to boom for me. Done. So I can't even judge this comic book fairly. I can't. She showed up, and I was just done. I'm just done. So yeah, complete turnoff for me. I'm out. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.